Urbanization and infrastructure as instruments of a singular pan-Ethiopian identity. Uprooting of the Oromo inside the Abusera Airport City project in central Oromiyaa. Special edition of the voice of Dirree Shaggar. In Abusera, in East Shoa of the state of Oromiyaa, where the land rolls gently and the soil remembers every footstep, the day begins before the sun. Farmers rise not as owners with papers, but as custodians with memory. Their bond to this land is written in generations of cultivation, in ancestral graves, in sacred trees and Gadaa sites, in water paths that still know their names, and in stories carried from mouth to ear. This land has fed families, shaped identity, and held community life together for centuries. Now it is spoken of as empty. No warning is given. Machines arrive before words do. Homes are flattened. Fields are torn open. Across 6 sub-districts, communities are pushed aside, not by nature but by decision. The word used is development. The hand behind it is the Ethiopian Airlines group. The name given to it is Bishoftu International Airport, also called Abusera Airport City. In this 6-part series told through 35 sections, Voice of Dirree Shaggar listens to the land, to its people, and to the law, examining whether this project is necessary, whether it is lawful, and what justice demands as a way forward. Part 1. Ethiopian Airlines. New Mega Airport Abusera Airport City Project. The hidden cost of national pride. 1. The promise of progress. Ethiopian Airlines Group, Africa's largest and most profitable airline, has, over the past 2 to 5 years, repeatedly announced plans to develop a major international airport in Abusera district, central Oromiyaa, with an estimated cost of $7 to $10 billion. Following the project's official inauguration by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on 10 January 2026, construction of the first phase has now begun. The development is envisioned as a $12.5 billion aerotropolis featuring 4 runways, integrated cargo hubs, hotels, business parks, aviation training centers, and a planned satellite city. 35 to 40 square kilometers. This is land allocated to the airport alone. With its other auxiliary projects, it is therefore close to a third of the capital Fin, also known as Addis Ababa, nearly the size of Washington, D.C., or it is roughly larger than Brussels city proper, or equivalent with the city of Bern. Abusera Airport City is not being compared to these cities because it is larger, but because it is similar in scale while lacking the democratic, historical, and legal processes that produce them. It also exceeds many global airports: Brussels, Bern, Addis, Lagos, and Ottawa, expanded over decades or centuries through municipal governance, however imperfect. But Abusera, unlike those cities, is a single infrastructure decision, arrives overnight and applied instantaneously, on inhabited rural Oromo land, with displacement before consent, backed by a powerful coalition, the Ethiopian government, the African Development Bank, U.S. development finance institutions, export credit agencies, and global lenders. The language is familiar. Jobs, growth, connectivity, national pride. Ethiopian Airlines is presented as proof that Ethiopia can compete globally, that it can soar. But every takeoff has a runway, and this runway is built on someone else's land. 2. The questions no one wants to answer. Was there an environmental and social impact assessment that meets Ethiopian law? Where is the free, prior, and informed consent of the Oromo communities of Abusera? Why are people being displaced before compensation frameworks are even operational? Why is resistance met not with dialogue, but with police, detentions, and silence? Under Ethiopia's own constitution, land belongs jointly to the state and the peoples of Ethiopia. Farmers have the right not to be displaced without compensation and consultation. Under international law, UNDRIP, the African Charter, and binding human rights norms, indigenous communities have the right to say no. Yet in Abusera, bulldozers speak louder than law. Oromo indignity to the land taken for the project is disregarded by design. This is not an accident, it is a pattern. 3. Ethiopian Airlines. More than an airline. Founded in 1945, Ethiopian Airlines is not just a company. It is a state project, a symbol, a geopolitical instrument. Fully owned by the federal government and overseen by Ethiopian Investment Holdings, the airline operates at the intersection of commerce and power. It generates billions in revenue. It is Ethiopia's largest source of foreign exchange. It carries the flag across continents. But symbols matter, and institutions reflect the states that create them. Despite Ethiopia's multinational federal system, Ethiopian Airlines has long been criticized for institutional exclusion, particularly of Oromo, language, culture, and leadership. Senior management remains disproportionately drawn from historically dominant groups. Afan Oromo is absent from institutional life, even when the airline operates from Oromo land. Even the skies reproduce erasure. On in-flight maps, Oromo place names disappear, replaced by imposed historical labels. This is not branding. It is ideology. It has happened many times. Or aviation as state power. Ethiopia's aviation history is often told as a story of modernization. The land tells a different story. The first airport, Lideta, was built on Tulama Oromo land. No compensation, no consent. Bole International Airport followed the same logic. Jet age modernity, indigenous displacement, linguistic and identity erasure. Harar Meda of Bishoftu became a permanent military zone. Civilian land absorbed into security infrastructure. Each expansion moved outward. Each time Oromo's presence shrank. Now comes Abusera, not a single runway, but an aerotropolis, an airport city nearly the size of Washington, D.C. Not localized displacement, but regional transformation. This is infrastructure as territorial control. By creating demographic discontinuity between the eastern or southeastern part of Oromiyaa and Western Oromiyaa, the project plays a restructuring role of dividing the state of Oromiyaa into two parts against current federal structure. 5. The present crisis. This project is unfolding amid crisis. Ethiopia is burdened by unsustainable debt. It has defaulted on its Eurobond. Austerity measures deepen poverty. More than 4 million people are internally displaced. Armed conflict persists in Oromiyaa, Amhara, and beyond. There is no comprehensive political settlement. No post-war reconstruction plan. And yet, billions are mobilized for prestige infrastructure and vanity projects. Land is taken. Voices are silenced. National pride is polished. 6. Dispossession in the name of development. The question is not whether Ethiopia needs development. The question is what kind. Development that uproots communities without consent is not progress. Infrastructure that erases language, identity, and law is not nation-building. The Abusera Airport City could be built differently, or not at all. With consent. With legality. With respect for those who have called this land home for centuries. Until then, this is not a story of flight. It is a story of forced removal of the indigenous identity and forced landing of alien urban elites. And the cost is being paid quietly by the people of Wara Abu, by the entire Oromo nation, and by Oromiyaa as Oromo's undivided homeland.